Midway through 2021, British boxing was in a really good position. Tyson Fury had just beaten Deontay Wilder to become the WBC heavyweight champion, alongside Anthony Joshua, who was the unified heavyweight champion. We also had many others like Lee Wood, Kid Galahad, Lawrence Okolie and Sonny Edwards. But fast forward 3 years later, Joshua just lost all his heavyweight titles to Alexander Usyk in September of 2021. So did Tyson Fury in May of 2024. Josh Taylor lost all his titles to Teofimo Lopez. Several other British champions lost their belts, leaving the only world champions out of the UK at the moment to be Daniel Dubois, Anthony Kakashi and Nick Ball. And it's been a long time since the UK has produced a really dominant world champion, which is where Sam Noakes comes in. Noakes is 27 years of age, 15 wins, 0 losses, 14 of those wins coming by way of knockout. Noakes is an aggressive boxer with devastating power. While in the fight, his opponents will spend most of their time against the ropes. While he is a massive puncher, he's got a lot of technical ability to go with it. So I'm going to go through his career so far and explain why I think he's destined for the top. Sam Noakes was quite a successful amateur. He never really ventured beyond the UK in his amateur days, but he won quite a few tournaments, including the National Boxing Championships. His talents led him to being picked up by Frank Warren, who signed him for a 4-year contract with Queensberry Promotions. He'd win his first fight by TKO in round 3, produced the same result in his second fight, also being a third round knockout, then producing a first round knockout in his third fight. He'd then take out the experienced Jordan Ellison in the 5th round, someone who'd been the distance with other boxers like Ryan Garner, Reece Mould and Lewis Ritson. He'd then take his first step up in the form of 5-0 undefeated Delmar Thomas, who would be on the receiving end of one of Noakes' most impressive knockouts. He'd then forced 2 opponents in a row to quit on the stool in between rounds, the first being Lee Connolly after round 3, the second being Naeem Ali, who would quit after round 2 when Noakes completely destroyed his nose. He'd then take a moderate step up in the form of Sean Cooper, who was 11-2 at the time, who he'd stop in round 9. He'd then become the first man to stop Vincenzo Finiello after 4 rounds. He'd then take his first genuine challenge in the form of fellow prospect 12-0 Calvin McCord, who he'd drop in round 4 with the body shot, continuing to target the body for the rest of the round, dropping him for a second time, a third time, and then following up with more body shots until eventually the ref stepped in at the end of round 4. It was this fight where Noakes started to gather himself a reputation for being a body puncher. He'd then take his second undefeated opponent in a row against Kartik Kumar. This is the fight where I thought Sam Noakes really started to come into his own as a fighter, as his shot selection and his ability to cut off the ring seemed on point. And at this point Sam Noakes was 11 wins and 11 knockouts. He'd then take a stay busy fight against Carlos Perez, who he'd dropped multiple times on his way to a finish in round 4, before taking on undefeated 13-0 Luis Sylvester. Sylvester was actually quite highly rated at the time. He was known as someone with a good jab who could move quite well, but he'd be dropped 3 times on his way to a finish at the end of round 2. At this point it's clear that Sam Noakes is above British competition, so it was time for a major step up. Ivan Mendy was incredibly experienced. He'd just gone 12 rounds with Denis Berinchyk, the current WBC lightweight champion, in a competitive fight. He's got a win over Luke Campbell, and not only has he never been stopped, he's never been knocked down in a fight. So going into his fight with Sam Noakes, I was curious to see how Noakes responds to an opponent who's not only incredibly durable, but incredibly experienced at the same time, as Mendy is a certified world-level opponent. But Noakes put on a surprisingly good performance. Not only did he look good doing what he normally does against the ropes with his pressure, he looks really good at distance with his jab, as well as fighting consistently for 12 rounds. He also only took a handful of clean shots in that fight, proving that he wasn't just an all-offense, no-defense fighter. He almost had Mendy down at the end of round 12, on his way to a points victory, where he'd win every single round on the judges' scorecard. He'd lose his 100% knockout ratio, but to him that just meant there was no pressure on getting a stoppage in every fight, as he'd go on to stop Gianluca Seglia in between rounds after round 7. That was Noakes' most recent fight, and he now has a fight booked on the 7th of December, next Saturday, against Ryan Walsh. What I think makes Sam Noakes so good is that while his best asset is his natural strength and his power and his punching ability, what makes him good is that he's very fundamentally sound while he's doing it. We saw in the Mendy fight he can stick behind his jab, he can catch and counter, he doesn't force the knockout like he used to do when he was a bit younger, he's got a decent guard to deflect and avoid punches, and overall, for a young, inexperienced pressure fighter, he's very calculated. What we can see from other pressure fighters is that sometimes they're only comfortable at one sort of range, and they're very limited with their shot selection. My favourite weapon that Sam Noakes uses is the lead hand. He doesn't really throw the jab that much, but especially when his opponents are backed up to the ropes, he uses the lead hand as a range finder to keep their opponent pinned to the ropes, and also to find range for the right hand, as well as to open up the body, which Sam Noakes is an expert at targeting. Now, to keep it honest, do I believe that Sam Noakes is going to go on to be the likes of Shakur Stevenson or Tank Davis? No, I don't. I think Sam Noakes lacks a bit in terms of footwork, but I would pick Sam Noakes over the likes of Dennis Birinchik or Joe Cordina or Frank Martin. So that is Sam Noakes, if you've heard of him before or if you haven't. Like the video, subscribe. Goodbye.